Kosan 1. Your soul is aligning with the next level.
People disappear when your energy no longer agrees to shrink. Not because you became cold, not because you stopped loving, but because something inside you finally refused to keep folding itself into rooms that were too small for your becoming. And that has been the strangest pressure of this season, hasn't it? Nothing is technically wrong, yet everything feels tighter than it used to. The same routines that once held you now feel like shoes from an old lifetime. The conversations that used to comfort you now leave an ache behind. Even your own thoughts have started pressing against the edges of what you used to call possible. This is what it feels like when your future becomes larger than your current emotional architecture. The soul notices before the mind can explain. You feel it as restlessness, as sacred irritation, as a quiet inability to keep pretending your life is only what your eyes can currently measure. You are not losing peace. You are outgrowing containment. There is a difference. A seed underground does not call the pressure of soil an attack. It understands that darkness can also be a workshop. And lately, your life has felt exactly like that, a workshop beneath the surface. Invisible changes. Internal stretching. A pressure no one around you fully understands because the evidence has not arrived yet. The visible world still sees your present. But your spirit has already touched tomorrow. That split can be exhausting. Because part of you is still functioning inside your current capacity, your current discipline, your current income, your current habits, your current emotional resilience, your current ability to hold uncertainty. Yet another part of you keeps receiving glimpses of a life that requires more courage, more stewardship, more self-trust, more nervous system strength, more emotional room, more willingness to be misunderstood. And that gap between vision and present embodiment is where many chosen souls begin to mistake expansion for failure. Listen carefully. The pressure you feel is not proof that you're behind. It is proof that your inner world has started renovating itself for a larger assignment. The soul always stretches before the reality arrives. That is why this season feels paradoxical. You feel called and inadequate at the same time. You sense greatness and vulnerability in the same breath. Some mornings you wake up with conviction burning in your chest, and by afternoon you're wondering if you're asking too much of yourself. That emotional contradiction is not instability. It is expansion friction. A river widening always disturbs its own banks. And your life right now is not collapsing. It is widening. That is why certain people faded. They were deeply connected to the version of you that survived by minimizing desire. The smaller self. The apologetic self. The self that translated dreams into something less threatening. The self that dimmed revelation into something socially acceptable. But the next level of your life cannot be built by the same agreements that kept the old level emotionally manageable. So yes, some people disappeared. Some through silence. Some through distance. Some through passive resistance. Some through subtle discomfort they could not name. What they were truly reacting to was not your success. It was your refusal to emotionally participate in your own reduction. When your energy no longer agrees to shrink, every false bond built on your self-abandonment begins to loosen. This is painful. Not because you need everyone, but because grief still visits every honest evolution. Growth is not only gaining, it is also releasing the identities that once kept you loved. That is why future pressure often feels like loneliness before it feels like freedom. The mind says, "Why is no one coming with me?" But the deeper truth is more compassionate. Not everyone was meant to meet the version of you that requires full spiritual occupancy. Some people knew your hesitation. Few were prepared for your wholeness. And still, the greater tension is not about them. It is about the quiet terror of realizing your future is asking more from you than your present habits know how to give. This is the real emotional center of your season. Not pain. Not reward. Capacity. The future you sense is not merely a bigger house, more money, more visibility, or greater influence. It is a larger container of self. A wider inner room. A mind that can hold paradox without panic. A heart that can stay open without leaking energy. A body that can carry responsibility without converting it into fear. A spirit that can receive more without collapsing into urgency. This is why your life has recently been confronting you with your edges. Your impatience. Your avoidance. Your inconsistency. Your old coping patterns. Your need for external confirmation. Your habit of overthinking the next 10 years instead of honoring today's instruction. This is not punishment. The future is introducing itself by exposing where your current structure still bends under weight. Imagine an old bridge learning it must carry twice the traffic. The first sign is strain. Not destruction. Strain. The creaks are information. And your emotional strain lately has been sacred information. The moments you felt overwhelmed by opportunities you prayed for. The moments you wanted to retreat after finally being seen. The moments your mind ran toward worst-case scenarios the second something good started forming. These reactions are not signs that the future is wrong. They are the revelation of the places within you that still associate expansion with danger. That is the true work here. Not chasing destiny. Increasing internal safety around becoming. Because many people ask for a bigger future while unconsciously remaining loyal to a smaller emotional set point. They desire abundance but rehearse collapse. They seek leadership but fear visibility. They want impact but avoid the discipline that stabilizes impact. Your soul has begun correcting this mismatch. That is why the pressure feels personal. Because it is not merely changing your circumstances. It is reteaching your relationship with scale. The next level is not bigger because it has more. It is bigger because it asks you to remain whole while holding more. There was a moment recently, perhaps alone at night, when the vision of your life arrived with unusual clarity. Not in exact details, but in weight. You felt the size of what was coming. Maybe it looked like a business, a platform, a move, a new city, a calling, a reinvention, a level of contribution your current identity still finds intimidating. And your first response was not joy. It was pressure. Because the soul recognized something the ego immediately translated as responsibility. This is natural. A mountain seen from the valley can look like a burden before it becomes a horizon. But mountains do not ask whether you feel ready. They simply reveal the path one step at a time. The mistake is believing you need the capacity for the entire mountain while still standing at the base. No. You only need the capacity for the next honest step. This is the practical lesson your soul is trying to teach you. Build capacity through repetition, not imagination. The mind keeps trying to leap into the future and test whether you can hold it. Of course, it feels overwhelming there. You are mentally carrying tomorrow's weight with today's muscles. Return to the step in front of you. What discipline would make tomorrow less intimidating if practiced today? Maybe it is learning to keep promises to yourself. Maybe it is deep work for one uninterrupted hour. Maybe it is regulating your emotions before reacting. Maybe it is saving money consistently. Maybe it is strengthening your body. Maybe it is learning how to finish what inspiration begins. Maybe it is speaking with greater honesty. Maybe it is saying no without guilt. Expansion is not mystical theater. It is daily structural reinforcement. Brick by brick, the soul teaches the life how to hold what it asked for. This is why your season may feel less romantic than expected. You thought the next level would arrive as a euphoric breakthrough. Instead, it arrived as a demand for maturity. Less drama. More steadiness. Less fantasy. More embodiment. Less obsession with signs. More devotion to alignment. And yet, there is still something profoundly spiritual about this process. Because the invisible world often speaks through pressure long before it speaks through outcomes. A tree does not become taller by wanting height. It becomes taller by strengthening its rings. And every difficult, stretching, uncertain day you have survived recently has been adding another ring to your interior strength. You are thicker now. More able to remain standing in emotional weather that once would have uprooted you. Do not overlook this. The evidence of expansion is not always external growth. Sometimes it is the silence where panic used to live. Sometimes it is the ability to wait without spiraling. Sometimes it is discernment where urgency once dominated. Sometimes it is letting people misunderstand you without abandoning your direction. Sometimes it is holding a large dream with relaxed shoulders. That last one matters deeply. The future should not have to arrive through your nervous system breaking. Your soul is teaching you how to receive increase without translating it into inner violence. This may be why certain delays happened. Not because the door was denied, but because your inner scaffolding was still being reinforced.
A blessing received too early can become a burden.
A platform received before identity stabilizes can amplify confusion. A relationship received before emotional spaciousness can magnify wounds. A leadership role received before self-trust can become chronic exhaustion. So the delay was not emptiness. It was architecture. The room was being expanded before the furniture arrived. And now you are beginning to sense it. The walls within are moving. Your tolerance for smallness is dissolving. Your standards are changing. Your conversations are becoming more intentional. Your energy is less available for chaos. Your imagination is less interested in fantasy and more committed to buildable truth. This is alignment. Not excitement alone. Not signs alone. But congruence between vision, behavior, and inner capacity. There will still be moments of fear. That is human. Sometimes the future visits as grief for the life you can no longer fit inside. You may miss the simplicity of playing small, the emotional convenience of lower expectations, the false comfort of not being seen, the temporary safety of pretending your soul's calling was optional. Let yourself feel that grief without negotiating with it. Do not confuse nostalgia for truth. The old life was familiar. It was not necessarily faithful. And now your soul is asking for fidelity to scale. To stop measuring your next level by whether it feels comfortable. Comfort is a poor prophet. Alignment often feels like pressure before it feels like peace. But it becomes a cleaner peace. A truer peace. The kind that does not require self-betrayal to maintain. So when the pressure rises again, do not ask,
Why is this so hard?
ask, what in me is being strengthened to meet what I already know is coming? That question changes everything. It turns fear into training. It turns uncertainty into preparation. It turns emotional stretching into evidence that your life is becoming more load-bearing. And that is what this season truly is. Not a crisis. A load-bearing season. You are becoming someone your future can safely land on. This means simplifying your emotional life. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every invitation deserves energy. Not every relationship deserves continued access. Not every version of success deserves pursuit. A bigger future requires a cleaner interior. The clutter has to go. Mental clutter.
Relational clutter.
Habit clutter. Narrative clutter. Especially the narrative that says, I must already be enough for tomorrow. No. You only need to be willing enough for today. Capacity compounds. Just as muscles grow by repeated tension and recovery, your soul is growing by repeated encounters with the edge of what you can currently hold. Every time you stay, every time you practice, every time you regulate instead of retreat, every time you continue instead of dramatize, every time you trust process over panic, you expand. Quietly. Powerfully. Irreversibly. One day soon, the life that once felt impossibly large will feel normal in your hands. Not because it got smaller, because you became wider. And when that day comes, you will understand why certain people vanished.
Why some doors stalled?
Why your spirit kept pressing against the old ceiling. Why restlessness followed you into every room that asked you to remain reduced. It was never random. Your soul was already aligning with a level your present identity was still learning to host. So breathe. The pressure is not your enemy. It is the sensation of your inner world making room. Let the room expand. Let the old agreements fall away. Let the future train your present through honest repetition, sacred discipline, and self-respect. The next level is not somewhere else. It is already arriving inside the way you think, the way you choose, the way you recover, the way you hold silence, the way you honor your own growth. This is why you feel different. You are not merely hoping for another life. You are becoming proportionate to it. And that is holy work. So tonight, before sleep, place your hand over your heart and release the ancient fear that says growth must come through collapse. Your path is teaching a gentler strength now. Expansion through steadiness. Power through alignment. Future through present faithfulness. Let this settle into your spirit. The pressure is not here to crush you. It is here to reveal the size of the room being prepared within you. And yes, people may continue disappearing as your energy refuses to shrink. Bless them. Release them. Keep walking. The river does not apologize for becoming wide enough to reach the sea. Neither should you. Affirmations.
1. I am becoming emotionally spacious enough for the future I carry.
2. I trust daily discipline to expand my capacity step by step.
3. I release every identity that asks me to shrink to stay accepted.
Blessing. May your spirit remain steady under sacred pressure. May your mind learn peace at greater levels of responsibility. May your heart trust the widening path before the proof arrives.
May every delay reveal itself as preparation, every release become room, and every fearful edge turn into strength.
May you become wide enough, calm enough, and clear enough to safely receive all that is already moving toward you.
Amen.